Commander Jacob Reeve tightened his grip on the controls of the small scout ship as it descended through the thick orange clouds of the ruined planet below. The distress beacon had been faint but steady, coming from somewhere near the scorched plains of Jirella, a world once proud and full of life, now silent and broken after years of war. Jacob's mission was simple: investigate the signal, see if anyone had survived. The ship landed roughly on cracked ground littered with twisted metal and blackened rocks. Outside, the air was thick with dust and the faint smell of burning. Jacob pulled on his helmet and stepped down onto the barren landscape, his boots sinking slightly in the ash. The silence was eerie. He checked his scanner. The signal was coming from a collapsed building not far away. As he moved closer, the ruins of what looked like a large home came into view. The walls were shattered, the roof partially fallen, and smoke still curled from small fires inside. The place looked empty, until a small figure darted out from under a broken beam. Jacob froze. The figure was unlike anything he had seen before. It was small, about the size of a human child, but with 6 thin limbs and large shining eyes that reflected the fading light. Its skin was a pale blue-gray patterned with faint stripes. The creature looked terrified and weak. Jacob slowly lowered his weapon and knelt down. "Hey there," he said softly. "Are you hurt?" The child's eyes widened. It backed away, but didn't run. Instead, it looked at him with a mix of fear and hope. Then in broken but clear English it spoke. "Please, help me," the child whispered. "My mom. She's hurt. She is all I have left. Please, human. Please marry my mom." Jacob blinked, surprised. The child's words were strange but full of urgency. He looked around carefully, then stood and motioned for the child to follow him. "Come on. Let's find your mom," he said gently. They moved carefully through the ruins. The child, who introduced itself as Tali, led Jacob to a small room at the back of the building. Inside, a woman lay on a makeshift bed, her breathing shallow and labored. She was tall and elegant, with smooth skin the same pale blue-gray as Tali's, but her face was marked with dirt and bruises. Jacob crouched down beside her, checking for injuries. She was alive but weak. Her name, Tali said softly, was Solari Ven. She was a diplomat from the Shirellan Empire, a proud and ancient race now shattered by war. "Why do you want me to marry her?" Jacob asked Tali quietly, the child's eyes filled with tears. "Because she is alone. The others want to take her away to make her marry someone else, but she doesn't want that. She needs someone strong, someone who can protect her and me." Jacob looked at Solari again. He could see the strength still hidden beneath her pain. She was more than just a victim. She was a leader, a symbol of hope for her people. And now, that hope was placed in him. He knew this mission was going to be more complicated than he thought. Jacob worked quickly to make the shelter safer. He repaired damaged equipment, created a barrier to block the wind, and used his med kit to treat Solari's wounds. Tali stayed close, watching him carefully. As night fell, the cold of the planet crept in. Jacob built a small fire outside to keep warm. He sat near it, still thinking about what Tali had asked him. "Marry her?" he muttered. "What does that even mean to them?" Tali looked up at him with innocent eyes. "It means safety. It means family. It means no one can hurt us if you are with her." Jacob felt a lump in his throat. He was far from home, with nothing but strangers around him, but for the first time in a long time, he understood what he wanted to do. He would protect Solari and Tali, not because it was his duty, but because they had become his family. The next day, Jacob sent a message to his command ship in orbit. He told them about the survivors, about Solari and Tali, and about his plan to stay with them for now. The response was cautious but supportive. He was told to use his judgment. Jacob spent the day learning more about the Shirellan culture from Tali. The alien child spoke of ancient traditions of honor and loyalty, and of the harsh laws that ruled their people now. Solari's position as a widow made her vulnerable, and without a protector she could be forced into a new marriage against her will. Jacob listened carefully. The more he learned, the more he realized that this was not just a rescue mission. It was a chance to change something important, to bring hope to a broken world. That evening, Solari finally opened her eyes. Her gaze met Jacob's, full of pain but also trust. "Thank you," she whispered. Jacob smiled gently. "We'll get through this. Together." Tali smiled too, reaching out to hold Jacob's hand with her many fingers. "Please, human, stay with us." Jacob nodded. "I will." Under the distant stars, on a planet of ashes and memories, a new family was beginning to form, one that would face dangers and challenges no one could imagine, but also one that would show the strength of humanity and the power of hope. The morning light filtered weakly through the cracked windows of the ruined house. Inside, the air was heavy but quiet. Solari Ven, the last known ambassador of the Jirellan Empire, lay resting on a bed made from scraps. Beside her, Tali, the six-limbed alien child, was already awake, watching over her mother with large, hopeful eyes. Jacob Reeve sat nearby, quietly cleaning his equipment and preparing for the day ahead. The planet Jirella was scarred deeply by war. The once great cities were now reduced to rubble, and many of its people were lost or scattered across the stars. Solari's family was almost completely wiped out. Only she and her child remained. Jacob thought about what Tali had said the night before, how Solari was at risk of being forced into a new marriage by the surviving Jirellan clans. The idea seemed strange to him. Why would someone want to force a widow into marriage? But he quickly understood it was about power, protection, and survival. The Jirellan clans were strict and ruled by old customs. Without a strong protector, Solari and Tali were easy targets. Their survival depended on alliances and strength. Jacob sighed and stood up. "I want to learn more about your people," he told Solari softly. "It will help me protect you better." Solari nodded slowly. Her voice was weak but steady. "Our people value honor above all. When war destroyed our home, we lost much more than buildings. We lost trust, unity, and safety. Those who survive cling to old rules to keep order. A widow without a protector is seen as vulnerable. Some clans see this as a chance to gain power by marrying her." Jacob frowned. "But you don't want that?" "No," Solari answered firmly. "I want to rebuild peace, not return to old conflicts." Jacob looked at Tali, who was quietly listening, her many arms folded carefully. "And what do you want, Tali?" he asked gently. The child's eyes shone with determination. "I want my mom safe. I want a family. I want you to stay with us." Jacob felt a strong warmth inside. This small being trusted him with everything. It was a heavy responsibility. Over the next few days, Jacob helped repair the shelter. He scavenged parts from nearby wreckage to restore a communication device. He also strengthened their defenses, knowing that hostile scavengers or rival clans might come looking for them. Every evening, Solari would teach Jacob more about Jirellan culture. She spoke of their beautiful traditions, their deep respect for knowledge and diplomacy, and the painful losses they had suffered. Despite the hardships, her spirit remained strong. Jacob admired her courage. She was not just a survivor. She was a leader who carried the hopes of her people in her heart. One afternoon, a low hum vibrated through the air. Jacob's repaired. Communicator flickered to life. A voice crackled through the static. "Commander Reeve, this is Captain Harris from the Earth Federation Command. We received your report. What is your status?" Jacob stepped outside, shielding the device from the wind. "Captain, I have found survivors, a widow and her child. The situation is complicated. They are vulnerable to local customs and threats. I need permission to stay with them and help." There was a pause before Harris responded. "Understood. Your priority is their safety. Use your judgment. Keep us updated." Jacob nodded, relief washing over him. He turned back toward the shelter. We have more time now, he said to Solari and Tali. I'm not going anywhere. That evening, as the twin moons of Shirella rose in the dark sky, Jacob sat beside the fire. Tali was drawing pictures in the dirt with her many fingers. Solari was resting but watching them with a faint smile. Jacob looked at the stars and thought about the vastness of space. So many worlds out there, so many people lost or waiting for help. Yet here, on this broken planet, he had found something precious. A family. Solari spoke softly. Jacob, you should know something. The clans will come, they will test you, they will want to know if you are worthy of standing with us. Jacob nodded. I'm ready. The look in Solari's eyes was serious. This is not just about you, or me. This is about the future of our people. Jacob took a deep breath. Then we face it together. Days later, the first visitors arrived. They came in small ships, their dark shapes cutting through the dusty sky. Jacob met them outside the shelter, a group of stern Shirellan warriors, led by a tall woman with a scarred face. I am Commander Varys, she said coldly. You are the human who claims to protect Solari Ven? Jacob stepped forward, calm and steady. I am Jacob Reeve. I'm here to help her and her child survive. Varys studied him carefully. You know the rules. A widow must join another clan through marriage. Your presence changes nothing. Jacob shook his head. I believe we can change those rules. Varys laughed softly. Humans are foolish, but we shall see. Back inside, Jacob told Solari and Tali about the meeting. Tali's eyes grew wide with worry. Will they take her away? She asked. Jacob crouched to her level. Not while I'm here. I will not let anyone harm your family. Solari smiled weakly. Your courage gives me hope. That night, Jacob made a quiet promise to himself. He would stand with Solari and Tali no matter what. They were more than survivors. They were the beginning of something new. Together they would face the challenges ahead. The morning sun rose slowly over the ruined planet of Shirella. The orange sky lit the shattered buildings and ash-covered ground. Inside the small shelter, Jacob Reeve stood quietly, watching Solari and Tali prepare for the day ahead. The visit from Commander Varys and her warriors had changed everything. They did not accept Jacob's presence easily, and the threat of losing Solari to the clan still hung in the air like a dark cloud. Jacob felt the weight of the promise he made, to protect them no matter what. But protecting a Shirellan widow was no simple task. It meant more than just guarding walls or fighting enemies. It meant entering a world of ancient laws and customs, rules that Jacob barely understood. He sat down beside Solari and spoke gently. Tell me more about what this marriage means to your people. Solari looked tired but steady. Marriage for the Shirellans is not only about love or family. It is about alliances, protection, and honor. When a widow marries, she joins a new clan. That clan gains her and her child's strength and influence. Without a protector, a widow is vulnerable. Her enemies can take her land and her child. It is survival, not choice. Jacob nodded, his mind racing. So if I marry you, I become part of this clan? I protect you and Tali? Yes, Solari said quietly, but it is a serious step. You must prove yourself worthy. The clans will test you. Jacob looked at Tali, who smiled bravely despite the worry in her eyes. I don't know their ways yet, but I want to try. I will do whatever it takes. That afternoon, Jacob went outside to prepare for the challenge. The warriors who came with Commander Varys had made it clear. If Jacob wanted to protect Solari and Tali, he must take part in the trials of fire and stars, a series of tests designed to prove strength, courage, and honor. Jacob was not a warrior by training. He was a commander, skilled in strategy and survival. But these trials were unlike any mission he had faced. They tested not just the body, but the heart and mind. As he walked toward the training grounds, Jacob felt the eyes of the Enclave on him. The Shirellans watched silently, some with curiosity, others with doubt. Jacob held his head high. He was here not just for duty, but because he believed in something greater, a family, a new future. The first trial was physical. Jacob faced an obstacle course that tested his agility and strength. He climbed walls, crossed narrow beams, and dodged swinging weights. Despite his lack of specialized training, Jacob used his experience and quick thinking to finish the course. His body ached, but he smiled. He had passed the first test. The next trial was one of endurance. Jacob had to stay awake for 3 days while guarding the enclave from potential threats. The nights were cold and dark, and danger lurked nearby. But Jacob kept watch with determination. He knew that Solari and Tali were counting on him. The final trial was the hardest, a test of honor and wisdom. Jacob was brought before the elders of the enclave, respected leaders who questioned him in their ancient language, then in broken English. They asked why he wanted to marry Solari, what he hoped to bring to their people, and how he would face the challenges ahead. Jacob answered honestly. He spoke of respect, trust, and hope. He said that love could grow between different worlds, and that together they could build peace. The elders listened carefully. After long silence, one of them nodded slowly. "You have the heart of a true protector." Jacob felt a surge of relief and pride. That evening, the enclave gathered for a ceremony under the twin moons. Fire torches lit the stone courtyard as Solari, Tali, and Jacob stood together before the crowd. Jacob took Solari's hand. "I promise to protect you and Tali," he said clearly, "to stand with you against all dangers and to help rebuild your home." Solari smiled softly, her eyes shining with gratitude. "And I accept this bond, not only as a symbol of protection but as a new beginning." The crowd murmured with approval, some surprised, others hopeful. A human, one of their old enemies, was now part of their clan. Tali hugged Jacob tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "You are my family now." After the ceremony, Jacob sat with Solari and Tali near the fire. The future was still uncertain. The clans might not all accept this union, and dangers from outside threats remained. But for the first time, Jacob felt something he had not known for a long time: hope. He looked at Solari and Tali and knew that he had made the right choice. This was more than a mission or duty. This was about love, trust, and a new family, one that could change the future of two worlds. The day of the ceremony arrived with a quiet, tense energy that seemed to pulse through the Jirellan enclave. The small group gathered in the stone courtyard beneath the twin moons of Shirella, where the walls bore the marks of old battles and the flickering torches cast long shadows on the ground. Jacob Reeve stood beside Solari Ven and little Tali, his heart steady, but his mind racing. Today was more than just a formal promise. It was the day he would become a part of this strange, proud alien world. The day he would show the clans that he was worthy to protect Solari and Tali, not just as a soldier or an outsider, but as family. The elders of the enclave, robed in deep blue and silver, stepped forward, their faces calm but serious. They began the ancient ritual, chanting softly in the Jirellan tongue. The words carried a weight of history and meaning Jacob could not yet understand, but he felt their power. Solari's hand tightened around his. Her eyes, strong and clear despite the scars and pain, met his with silent encouragement. Tali's, many fingers wove through his own, a small anchor in this new world. The ceremony included the trial of fire and stars, a test designed to bind the couple's fates. First, they had to pass through the circle of flames, a narrow path surrounded by a ring of fire. Walking side by side, Jacob and Solari stepped carefully between the flickering flames. The heat was intense, but neither flinched. The flames symbolized courage and sacrifice, both necessary for survival in the harsh galaxy. As they crossed the circle, the crowd watched silently, some with doubt, others with hope. Jacob could see the mixture of emotions in their faces. To many, a human standing with Solari was a sign of change. To others, it was a challenge to old traditions. Next came the test of the stars. In a darkened chamber, Jacob and Solari were shown the night sky through a crystal dome. The stars of Shirella told stories of their ancestors, their struggles, and their dreams. Jacob listened as Solari explained the constellations, each one a symbol of strength, wisdom, or loyalty. Then the elders asked them to make a vow under the stars. Jacob spoke first, his voice steady and clear. "I promise to protect Solari and Tali with all my strength, to honor their people and their traditions, and to stand with them through every challenge." Solari followed, her voice soft but firm. "I accept this promise. Together, we will rebuild our home and protect our future." The elders nodded, satisfied. After the vows, the ceremony turned to celebration. Music filled the air. Strange, beautiful melodies played on alien instruments. Shirellan dancers moved gracefully around the courtyard, their movements telling stories of hope and renewal. Jacob watched Solari and Tali smile genuinely for the first time in weeks. For a moment, the scars of war seemed to fade, replaced by the warmth of a new family. However, not all were pleased. In the shadows of the crowd, Commander Varys stood with a cold, unreadable expression. She had been one of the strongest opponents of Jacob's presence, seeing him as an outsider unworthy of the Ven family. Varys stepped forward, her voice loud and firm. "This union may protect Solari for now," she said, "but the clans will not accept a human as kin easily. We will watch closely. If you fail, the consequences will be severe." Jacob met her gaze without fear. "I am not here to take, but to give. We face the future together, or fall apart alone." A murmur spread through the crowd. Some nodded. Others remained silent. That night, as the fires died down and the enclave grew quiet, Jacob sat with Solari and Tali beneath the stars. The weight of the day's events settled on them all. Solari reached out and placed her hand on Jacob's. "You have done well," she said softly. "But this is only the beginning. The clans may still try to challenge us. We must be ready." Jacob nodded. "I will not let anything happen to you or Tali. We will face whatever comes, together." Tali smiled sleepily. "My family." In the days that followed, Jacob worked to strengthen their position. He trained alongside Xyrillan warriors, learning their fighting styles and tactics. Though their bodies and movements were different from humans, the lessons were valuable. Jacob's knowledge of strategy and technology gave them an edge. Solari used her diplomatic skills to reach out to rival clans seeking allies. The road was difficult and some doors were closed, but slowly new friendships formed. Jacob found himself becoming more than just a soldier or protector. He was a bridge between two worlds, a symbol of hope for peace and unity. One evening, as they prepared for another day of negotiations, Tali pulled Jacob aside. Her eyes were serious. "Human," she said quietly. "I know this is hard, but you are strong, you are brave, thank you for staying." Jacob smiled and knelt to her level. "You don't have to thank me, Tali. You and your mom are my family now. We protect each other." Tali nodded, a small smile returning to her face. The ceremony of fire and stars had changed everything. It was not just a ritual, it was a promise that despite the past, despite the dangers, a new family could rise. Jacob, Solari, and Tali were no longer alone in the ashes of Shirella. Together, they would fight for a future where hope could grow again. The days after the ceremony, a fire and stars passed with a mix of hope and tension. Jacob Reeve found himself adapting to a life very different from his own world. The Enclave was slowly recovering from years of war, but old rivalries ran deep beneath the surface. Though many accepted Jacob's new role as protector and consort, to Solari, others quietly watched with suspicion. One morning, as the orange light filtered through the cracked walls of their shelter, a loud commotion echoed outside. Jacob stepped out and saw a group of armored Shirellan warriors approaching, led by a tall figure with a stern expression. It was Commander Varys, the same warrior who had warned Jacob during the ceremony. Behind her was a man Jacob had never met, a proud and harsh-looking Xyrillan with a sharp gaze and a cold smile. Jacob soon learned his name, Commander Ralek, Solari's former suitor and a powerful clan leader. Varys spoke first. Commander Reeve, you have disrupted the old order. Ralek demands that Solari return to him. He claims custody of Tali and the right to lead the clan. Jacob stood firm, feeling the weight of responsibility. Solari and Tali belong here with me. This is their home now. Ralek's cold smile deepened. You are an outsider, a human. You have no place here. The clans will decide her fate. Solari stepped forward, her voice steady but filled with quiet strength. I choose my own path. I will not return to an alliance made by force. I stand with Jacob, who has proven his loyalty and honor. The crowd murmured, some in shock, others in support. Tali clung to Jacob's side, eyes wide but trusting. Jacob knew this challenge was more than a personal battle. It was a test of his new family's place in the clan system. Ralek's power and influence made him a dangerous opponent. Determined to defend Solari and Tali, Jacob sought allies among the other clans. Many were wary of a human's involvement, but some respected Jacob's courage and honesty. Slowly, he built a small network of supporters who believed in change. Meanwhile, Jacob's superiors in the Earth Federation sent messages filled with concern. His actions on Jirella were unusual, some said reckless. They questioned his loyalties and urged him to return. But Jacob refused. He wrote back, "This is more than a mission. It is a family. I will not abandon them." As tensions rose, Ralek grew bolder. He sent warriors to challenge Jacob and his allies, hoping to intimidate them. Skirmishes broke out near the Enclave's borders. Jacob led the defense, using his knowledge of human tactics and technology to outsmart the attackers. Solari worked tirelessly to negotiate peace with neutral clans. Her calm and wisdom helped ease fears. Tali, despite her young age, showed courage and resilience, comforting those who felt lost. One night, as Jacob prepared for another patrol, Solari joined him outside the shelter. The stars shone brightly above, but the weight of the conflict pressed on their hearts. "Do you ever fear we will lose?" she asked softly. Jacob looked at her, eyes filled with determination. "Fear is natural, but I believe in us, in what we have built. We will not give up." Solari smiled, her hand finding his. Together. The following weeks tested their strength like never before. Ralek's forces grew bolder, and the Enclave faced threats from all sides. Jacob's leadership kept hope alive, even as the dangers mounted. In one daring encounter, Jacob led a small team to intercept a band of Ralek's warriors before they could reach Solari's shelter. The battle was fierce but quick. Jacob's careful planning and teamwork won the day. Afterward, Tali hugged Jacob tightly. "You saved us," she whispered. Jacob smiled. "I will always protect you." Despite the dangers, moments of peace and joy appeared. Solari shared stories of Shirellan history by the fire, teaching Jacob and Tali about their past. The Enclave's children played games in the dusty streets. Music and laughter echoed softly, reminding them all of what they fought. But the conflict was far from over. Jacob knew the coming days would bring new trials. Ralek would not give up easily, and the clans remained divided. Still, Jacob felt something stronger than fear. Hope. Hope born from family, trust, and the promise of a better future. He looked at Solari and Tali and vowed silently, no matter what came, he would stand with them, always. The air was heavy with tension as the sun dipped behind the jagged mountains of Jirella. The Enclave that had once been a safe place now felt like a fortress under siege. Jacob Reeve stood at the edge of the high walls, his eyes scanning the horizon. The threat was closer than ever. The enemy was not just rival clans anymore. A new danger had risen from the shadows of the past, the synthetic army, remnants of the war that had nearly destroyed the planet. They moved with cold precision, attacking settlements and leaving destruction in their wake. Jacob's communicator buzzed sharply. Salari's voice came through steady but urgent. Jacob, the Sky Temple is under attack. They are trying to break through the defenses. The Sky Temple was the heart of the Enclave, a place of worship, leadership, and hope. If it fell, the entire community would crumble. Jacob grabbed his gear and rushed toward the temple gates, where Salari and Tali waited alongside the Shirellan warriors. The battle was fierce. The synthetic forces advanced with metal limbs and glowing eyes, relentless and unfeeling. But the defenders were ready. Jacob took command, using tactics he had learned on Earth and adapted to Shirellan fighting styles. He positioned archers on the high walls and set traps along the ground. He coordinated with Salari, who rallied the people with words of courage and hope. Tali, though young, showed bravery beyond her years. She helped guide civilians to safety through secret tunnels, her many arms moving quickly and carefully. Hours passed with little rest. The synthetic army struck again and again, but the Enclave held firm. Jacob's leadership made a difference. His knowledge of technology allowed the defenders to predict enemy movements and respond quickly. At one point, a group of synthetic soldiers tried to breach the main gate. Jacob led a counterattack, charging forward with his weapon raised. The clash was loud and fierce, but the attackers were driven back. In the midst of the fight, Salari stood on the temple steps, her voice carrying over the noise. We fight not just for ourselves, but for the future of Shirella and all who call it home. Her words inspired the defenders, reminding them why they fought. As the sun began to rise, the attackers finally retreated. The Enclave had survived the siege. Jacob looked at the tired but determined faces around him. We did it, he said quietly. But this is only the beginning. Salari approached and placed a hand on his shoulder. You have brought us more than protection. You have brought hope. Tali smiled up at Jacob. You are our hero. The days after the siege were filled with rebuilding. The Sky Temple stood, scarred but strong. The Enclave's people worked together, cleaning up rubble and repairing walls. Jacob, Salari, and Tali became symbols of unity. Their bond showed that even in a broken world, family and courage could bring light. One evening, Jacob and Salari sat together beneath the stars. The weight of the battle still hung in the air, but so did a new sense of peace. We have come far, Salari said softly. But the road ahead is still long. Jacob nodded. We face it together. She smiled, hope shining in her eyes. Together. In the quiet of the night, Tali whispered, Thank you, human, you saved my family. Jacob hugged her gently. We save each other. The siege of the Sky Temple had tested them all, but it had also shown the strength of a family formed by choice, not blood. Together, they were ready to face whatever the future held. The first light of dawn stretched across the horizon of Shirella, casting soft gold and pink hues over the ruined cities and jagged mountains. For the first time in many cycles, the air felt lighter. The long shadow of war was beginning to fade. Jacob Reeves stood on a high ridge overlooking the Enclave. Beside him, Salari Ven and Tali watched quietly, their faces calm, but filled with hope. The battle for survival was far from over, but the hardest trials were behind them. The siege of the Sky Temple had brought the people of Shirella together. Old enemies had found common ground, and new alliances had been forged. Jacob's leadership and his promise to protect Salari and Tali had changed the course of their lives, and the future of the planet. A message arrived from the Earth Federation, carried by a small shuttle descending slowly from orbit. The commanders on the ship had witnessed Jacob's reports and the growing strength of the Shirellan Enclave. They offered him a new role as Earth's official ambassador to the rebuilding Shirellan worlds. Jacob looked at Salari and Tali before replying. His heart was heavy with the weight of the decision, but also filled with determination. This is more than a mission now, he said softly. It's about family, and I will not leave them behind. That day, the people of the Enclave gathered in the Sky Temple courtyard to hear Jacob's decision. The crowd was large, Shirellan warriors, diplomats, children, and families who had survived the war and siege. Jacob spoke clearly, his voice steady and strong. We have faced impossible odds together. We have fought not just for survival, but for hope. Today, I accept the responsibility to be your ambassador and protector, not as a human outsider, but as part of your family. Scifi stood beside him, her hand resting gently on his arm. We are stronger because we are united. Together we will rebuild our world and build bridges between our peoples. Tali smiled brightly, her many arms waving in joy. Over the coming cycles, Jacob worked tirelessly. He traveled between Earth and the Shirellan worlds, bringing messages of peace, aid, and cooperation. His presence helped break down walls of fear and misunderstanding between species. Scifi led efforts to heal her people, using her skills in diplomacy and leadership. Tali grew stronger every day, learning both the old traditions and the new ways Jacob brought. Jacob often thought about how a simple plea from a frightened child had changed everything. Please marry my mom, human. She's all I have left. Those words echoed in his mind, a reminder of what family really meant. It was not just about blood or species. It was about trust, love, and standing together. One evening, as the stars shone brightly over the peaceful enclave, Jacob sat with Scifi and Tali. They watched the night sky, feeling a deep connection to both their worlds. Scifi spoke softly. Our future is bright, but it will take time. Jacob smiled. We have time, and we have each other. Tali reached up and took Jacob's hand. Thank you for staying. Jacob squeezed her hand gently. Always. The story of Jacob, Scifi, and Tali became a legend among the stars, a story of courage, hope, and the power of family. It showed that even in the darkest times, humanity's greatest strength was its heart. And on Shirella, beneath twin moons and endless stars, a new dawn had truly begun.